Okay, so I am joined once again by the one and only Jeremy Vera.
Couldn't stay away.
It couldn't stay away. I mean, we just barely tapped into your potential of just the shit that you riff on, man. Like, we're about to talk about depth psychology. We're about to talk about the existential meaning crisis that you have studied. You did your master's thesis on, actually.
Yep, on John Vervaeke.
Yep, John Vervaeke and his understanding of the meaning crisis in our culture today, and how that relates to Buddhism, to morality, to Christianity, and all of these missing pieces in our society. And just, I don't know about anyone else, but when you feel in your soul how things are going in the world, you have to just notice something's off. You know what I mean? Something's not quite right. Maybe we can't put our finger on it, but something's missing. Something's, again, not quite aligned.
Something very real is missing.
And I want to give you the floor to explain first what the meaning crisis is, and then maybe what do we do about it?
Sure, yeah. And I'll definitely plug directly as much as I can remember and quote from Vervaeke about what he says we should do about it, which is slightly different from what I think we should.
And so again, just some preface, who is John Vervaeke?
Yeah, John Vervaeke is the absolute GOAT for all things cognitive science. And he was actually raised Christian. He's not Christian. He went through like the new atheism wave, incredibly smart PhD in cognitive science. But now his mission is in... I'll talk about what the meaning crisis is in a second, but it's in solving the meaning crisis by actually updating all of the wisdom traditions and spiritual traditions and religions to modern day and saying science and religion are not opposed. And that is a false dichotomy that we've created that's led to so many problems, which I love about his work. And I highly recommend his 50 episode YouTube series, which I've watched 4 times now.
That's what I'm saying. Jeremy's a
please
fucking
love me, Vervaeke,
legend.
if you're listening.
Shout out John Vervaeke.
But yeah, essentially the meaning crisis is this recognition from him, because he coined the phrase, that this world and all of its modernity and scientific progress that we've made has, despite these things, resulted in a conglomeration of different problems, from mental health crisis to drug crisis. There's a suicide epidemic, right? There's
in kids, right?
Mental health in children.
Like, that's the thing. When kids are killing themselves, clear indication something is fucking off with the culture. It's not the kids. Look at where they came from. Look at what they're being exposed to. Okay, we like, that's the thing. And this is where in mental health, we isolate the individual. But this is what, like, the work of James Hillman and other psychologists is like, we cannot separate ourselves from our context, from our surroundings, from the world we're living in. And like, what is so fucked, and I don't mind saying that, fucked about the culture that we're living in today?
It is incredibly messed up. And I mean, I can't summarize 50 plus hours too well here. But I will say that this secular push is largely responsible.
What does that mean, secular push?
So this push away from material, from matter, from science, from hard observation. And this is a scientist postulating this. I don't want to butcher his work because he's not religious. He is highly spiritual, and that's where we differ. I am religious, but he has a deep reverence for all the religious systems, and he thinks that they have a place in this modern world, and our distancing from and separating of matter and spirit is part of the, if not the issue behind this meaning crisis, where you've got more nuns than ever. Nuns not being like the Catholic nuns, but nuns being like spiritual but not religious. I don't subscribe to any religion. You've got atheism taking like front and center. Now it's finally dipping, I think. But I mean, this is what it's led to, right? It's clearly not solving our issues because, that's why he calls it the meaning crisis. All these mental health, these drug epidemics, science isn't fixing them. Why is that? Because all of these things are not providing us with this sense of purpose, meaning, matter, significance.
Totally. And I think, again, it's a more eudaimonic relationship with life, where hedonism, on the other hand, hedonism is basically the pursuit of pleasure and the minimizing of discomfort. Where eudaimonia is the pursuit of deep purpose and deep meaningfulness. And they're different. I always say that the analogy, cocaine and strippers on one side, and then like service, the path of devotion. And that's the thing. For me, it's obvious. Like, the joy, the bliss, the pleasantness you can extract out of a hedonic lifestyle is just so shallow when you compare it to the eudaimonic, when you're giving your life to something bigger than yourself. Bro, who cares about the fucking cocaine and yachts and strippers? They can fucking keep it. I have something so much better.
Exactly.
And that's what I think people are disconnected from. In this meaning crisis, it's built on a certain worldview, right? And some worldviews lead to disconnection, lead to a flat, lifeless existence, a flat, lifeless world, and some lead to enchantment, depth, beauty, meaning. And like atheism, for instance, you know, shout out atheists. I'm definitely not one of them, but it's like, it just seems like if we could pick any worldview to live in, why would you pick that? Like, what's going on for you? Quite literally, like, you need that sort of stability of, oh, yep, science is clearly it, and nothing else is. There's no way it could be anything other than that, because we humans, we're the apex of consciousness. We figured it out, and you know what? Science is the apex of human knowledge. That is, I mean, kind of fucking dumb, in my opinion.
We talked about this a little last time, but it's like science can explain just about anything for the how and the what, but it can't give you anything for the why.
Yeah.
Right? It can deconstruct everything and tell you how it works, and it doesn't tell you why it exists. It doesn't tell you why would you use this thing. What is the purpose? Exactly.
So, yeah, what is the purpose? What is the purpose of this human vessel? This brief window between birth and death, what's the purpose? Is it cocaine and strippers? Because I fucking hope not. If that's it, put 2 bullets in my brain and put me in the dirt and plant a tree on top of me, because I've seen enough. But, you know, that luckily, that's not the only story we can inhabit. And I think in order to flesh out this idea of what has invoked this meaning crisis, we have to understand the worldview that most of us are living in, this postmodern materialistic worldview. And I'm wondering if you can speak a little bit to that.
Yeah, sure. I'm really glad that you asked that, for sure. Because, I mean, this postmodern, everything is completely relativistic.
Can you define postmodernism, actually?
I would say that if I had to sum it up really quickly, it would be like moral and objective relativism. So there's no objective truth. There's no objective morality. Everything is a relative perspective. Which I was saying last time is one of the pitfalls of emptiness. Not necessarily where it has to lead, but that's one of the shadows of it, right? And so I'd say that the worldview is it doesn't necessarily have to be nihilistic, but it very often is nihilistic. It's like, because nothing is true, well, nothing matters, and because nothing is true, I can do anything, I can do everything, you can do anything, you can do everything. And that's a slippery slope where I don't think most people intended to go to this dark place. That's where it leads, in my perspective, from what I've seen, is when anything is okay, then what's to stop the rapists, the murderers, the thieves, right?
And if I could just briefly say, my understanding of the distinction between the Buddhist concept of shunyata, which is emptiness, the emptiness of all perception, and postmodernism. Postmodernism is saying there's no truth, so everything's okay. That's actually not what emptiness is saying. I mean, maybe at one very zoomed out level, sure. But also there is a way to make your life shitty, and there's a way to make your life good.
Right.
And that's where, you know, if I'm just murdering, stealing, and raping, bro, you are living in a very contracted form of self by default. You have to keep your heart closed when you are hurting other people. And actually, if you pay not even close attention to that, if you're just alive, you will notice that hurts. To close your heart like that. So the Buddha would say, you know, this is the Eightfold Path. How do we open our hearts to the world, to creation, to emptiness? Recognize there is sort of a structure here. If I want to act like shit and treat people, you know, like they don't exist, and I just want to walk on people, it actually hurts you. You know, and that's a distinction between, I think, postmodernism and emptiness. Emptiness is saying, yes, we can interpret things in any way, and it will lead to radically different experiences. But there are certain ways to construct narratives of self, other, and world, different ways to interpret experience that are going to be seemingly universally beneficial and desirable. Yeah. And that's the difference there. It's like, yeah, you can go in any direction, but like ultimately, why would you want to go in this shitty direction?
Well, I'm curious to ask your opinion on this one, because I don't want to retread the same conversation we had last time about emptiness, but there was something that we didn't talk about, which was and this is for you personally too, how do you think some of the non-negotiables of Buddhism coexist with that? So like there are objective things that the Buddha just postulated. I think the Buddha is a great example of why emptiness doesn't necessarily have to be nihilistic, because he didn't have to do anything after he achieved enlightenment, right? But he did anyway. He taught anyway. He taught these truths because he wanted to do something good for the world, right? So he had this motivation that didn't just come from, why not, right? Buddha clearly didn't think that way. And, you know, he postulated the Four Noble Truths and the 3 marks of existence, which are non-negotiable, right? That's not, it's not empty that things are impermanent.
Yeah, right.
Nothing will last forever.
Totally.
So I'm curious for you, like how that coexists.
So that's the thing. For me, there comes a point with a deep understanding of the emptiness of all perception that includes the emptiness of all paths, recognizing we are building paths, we are building experiences. And there's something about the Four Noble Truths, which are, you know, suffering exists, there's a cause, there's a way to end suffering, and there's a path to end suffering. Okay. So there's the Four Noble Truths. Those are really useful conceptual understandings. I mean, when I say understandings, I mean fabrications, actually. When you like speak that into existence, all of a sudden a path opens up. Interesting. So there's this again, out of objective void. I mean, that's the lens of emptiness, at least. Again, words objective are difficult. You know, they don't really hold as much weight here, but these conversations about objective truth and the lack thereof become really interesting with emptiness, because you see even emptiness is in fact also has to be fabricated and empty. But again, it's a view that we pick up and put down that lead to radically different experiences. And I want to speak to this bit about nihilism with emptiness, because so many people, they hear that word empty and they're just instantly turned off, because it seems like dark and there's nothing there, and it just almost like rejects the juiciness and the beauty of life. And I get that, and I don't fucking like it either. There's got to be a better word, which is why I like to use shunyata, the Pali, because empty, again, it has this kind of cold kind of feeling. But emptiness, shunyata, in its full understanding, is not cold. It is not nihilistic. It is empty of any solid truth, any truth that could exist outside of us, that could exist on its own side, as the Tibetans say. When it's empty of any solid truth, it must be full of infinite potential, infinite possibility. And that's the thing with the void. It's not empty. It's not that there's nothing there. I mean, yes, at one level, but at another level, it's full of everything that could ever be. It's pregnant with the infinite. So, and it's interesting, if we are claiming that because shunyata is true, because shunyata is the state of reality, it's empty. If that leads us to a nihilistic place, we need to ask the question, am I saying now that nihilism and a meaningless existence is now objectively true? Because that's, again, going against the teaching of emptiness, which is there is no objective truth. It is only, always, what you make it. So that's the thing. People get stuck on nihilism, and I think it's just how the mind tends to get hooked on fear, actually. The mind shrinks around this scary thing, and it seems really real. And that's a meaningless universe. And that, again, is not actually what emptiness means when you understand that full spectrum nuance of it. It's, you know, are you going to solidify a materialistic world, the Christian world, the Buddhist world, the meaningless nihilistic world? What are you going to solidify? And actually, do you have to solidify any of them? That's really the question. And Buddha would say, no, you don't. We don't. And this is a trunk book quote, which is like, you know, we're all in free fall without a parachute. Everything's groundless. And because of that, you know, there is no ground to hit. So we're actually good.
This is where, as you know, we disagree. But the reason why I think that just came to my mind is Buddha went in search of what he found, which we're now talking about, because what was there at the time wasn't working. So he did create Buddhism as a response, kind of like a screw you to Hinduism at the time, which was like, hey, you see this caste system here? This is the result of a pretty not correct belief system. Let me present you with this alpha spirituality instead. So that's just to say that I don't think Buddha explicitly subscribed to like all these belief systems are equal. And I will say something that I think is contributing to the meaning crisis is this pick up and put down meaning sense. So I think people crave meaning, but atheism, well, let me put it this way. Freud thought that religion was cope. It was copium, for like a heavy dose of copium.
Coping for what?
For the fact that there is death and we have to face it. And so it's this comfort, right? That's the atheistic perspective. I think Karl Marx said religion's the opiate of the people. It creates this sense of comfort, like, oh, I don't have to worry about dying. I would reverse it and say that the secular, meaningless worldview is copium for the fact that I might have to face the consequences of my actions. And I'd say that's part of the danger of a pick up and put down spirituality, which, like, listen, this is coming from, I was New Age as hell for many years. And I think it did a lot of good things for me. Why I'm not New Age now, why I think it is actually part of the meaning crisis problem. It's like New Age and atheism together, which you wouldn't think I would put together, is because of this ability to pick up and put down as I will. The key word being I, like when I want, when what serves me. And that's what utilitarianism is maximizing pleasure and minimizing pain, which sounds great on the surface. It's better than just pure suffering for the world, right? But what it ends up doing, even if it's mostly doing good right now, is I get to decide. And when I get to decide is different from what you get to decide, then it just becomes a competition of will. It's willpower, not actually what's best.
Interesting. So, it seems like utilitarianism, as you're defining it, seems a lot like hedonism. Again, maximizing pleasure, minimizing unpleasant sensations, experiences. This conversation tends to get very amorphous. I want to keep rooting it back in this meaning crisis conversation and recognizing for me, like, that ability that is a product of really understanding shunyata to pick up and put down worldviews and views of self. That should not make us feel small. That should not make us feel afraid. That should make us recognize that the fear that we're feeling is a result of holding a certain view that we're actively picking up. Maybe we don't see that we're picking it up, but we're holding it. We're holding a view that is inducing fear. Like, there is a real self here. And this seems something that is so obvious to the normal human mind. Wait, I have a mind and a body. I see out of these two eyes. What do you mean there's no self? Of course there is. And that's what's so radical about Buddhism, Hinduism, and actually the Christian path, which is see through this thing that you think that you are. Empty yourself of this limited vessel to fill yourself with the waters of the infinite. And that's what Thich Nhat Hanh, Buddhist teacher from, Vietnam, talks about. It's what Christ said, empty yourself. Because when you're empty of any delineation between you and the cosmos, all of a sudden you are the cosmos. What is death? What is birth? Like, quite literally. And we take that for granted. Like, little me and all the little actions that I have, all the good and the bad and the ugly and everything in between, that's me. And my question is it? Is that a view? Is that a view that we picked up? And what happens if we put that down? In exchange for maybe the view that I'm the whole cosmos, or the Buddhist view there is no self, or the deathless, the non-conceptual view of what I am is beyond form.
Yeah.
So that's my take on it.
Do you think that there's danger in that perspective of even if you're replacing a, say, crappy worldview for an ideal one that's leading to flourishing, which is pretty net positive?
Yeah.
Do you think there's danger in that? I'm doing that for me, so it inevitably could lead to self-service?
It depends how we define me. Like, who is that? Is it this body and the mind? Is it the personality? Is me the whole world? Is me creation, the divine? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. But then there must be a me if there's any motivation to make changes, right? It's referential. Yeah. Otherwise, it's like whatever happens.
Now we're getting into like the really
this is where words fall apart.
Sticky topic of dependent origination, which is like, yes, the self appears. We can't argue that. Like, sometimes it does feel like I'm just Ben. Yeah, duh. Okay. But that's maybe a unidimensional experience of identity and self. When I say unidimensional, it's one dimension. That's all that I am. And we can actually just play with the mind to access, I would say, probably infinite, actually, dimensions. I don't think there's limits to the different identities we can pick up and put down. We can start to poke at archetypes and depth psychology. Maybe this is a good segue into that. Yeah. Which is, we can play with certain archetypes. For me, it's been the warrior has been a big one, spiritual warrior. And literally, like when I was one belt away from a black belt when I was in high school. I played football. I wrestled. You're a long-term
Do Muay Thai now and kickboxing, and once upon a time was a gymnast.
And being a spiritual warrior, which ties into psychotherapy, going towards the darkness when we're conditioned to run away, turn away, numb, do anything but turn towards that big, scary darkness. It can be the existential fear of death, the existential meaningless that I think a lot of us feel in our bones and are actually numbing from, whether we know it or not. That warrior path. And for me, it's interesting. These archetypes are images. And I've told you this, but this archetype of the warrior, I've always loved, like, watching combat, like in movies and shit. It's just something, it's always struck a chord with me since I was a kid. And one movie, and people are gonna probably love this, that I started to channel that really struck me was it's kind of cringy, but 300. And this story about 300 Spartans leaving everyone that they love, knowing they're all gonna die, to fight, literally, historians say, millions of Persians. That is the most gangster shit I've ever fucking heard in my life. And they held them off for days. 4 days. I don't know if it was 4 days. I think it was actually 2 or 3 days. But and they're fighting. These are Greeks. These are Spartans. They're fighting butt naked with shields and spears. Gangster shit. Dying for everyone you love. And I saw that and I was like, dog. I'm like foaming out the mouth. And I'm like, dude, I want to be that. And I see that archetype. And that's informed who I am today. Of that person ready to die for those that they love. And what does that mean? Is that physical, or is that a spiritual death? To put myself out there, to face my demons. I'm getting chills saying this so that I can do that for the people that I love. And that's the thing. It's like these archetypes. We don't just like vibe with them. We become them, whether we know it or not. And we have to understand, what is the content I'm consuming? Is it dog shit TikTok? Or is it the prolific stories of something like Christianity, Hinduism, these beautiful, meaning-drenched myths? Like the Greek, like Hercules. These are beautiful myths. And instead we're watching fucking, Jersey Shore and Keeping Up the Kardashians? And we wonder why the world's so fucked. Like,
couldn't have said it better at that last part right there. I mean, anti-cringe. It's the anti-cringe, right? Same. I've so resonated with the warrior archetype. I mean, Lord of the Rings. 10,000th viewing, I'll still be brought to tears at the Rohan coming in the third movie.
I know.
So like, I would plug Vervaeke here, and he's talked about psychedelic experiences being revealing something to us that is quote unquote realer than real. So even if it's hallucinatory, right? We come back and we're like, that was actually more true than this table right here. And that's different from waking up from a dream where you wake up and you're like, oh, it was just a dream. I can go back to daily life now. You come back from a profound psychedelic experience and you're like, that was not just a dream. In fact, I have to change my life now.
Exactly.
And I think these archetypes, right, with depth psychology, right? I'm thinking of, there's Jungian depth psychology. There's like the newer like Hillman depth psychology, archetypal psychology. There's positive psych, existential psych, transpersonal psychology. These are the things that are actually paving the path for therapy and helping with the meaning crisis versus just like the sterile counseling, because they're bringing issues with archetypal issues that are truer and realer than real, right?
And this is where Buddhism is useful, but I like depth psychology a little bit more when we're tapping into the juiciness of life and the juiciness of the imaginal. And in Buddhism, the radicality of shunyata, emptiness, actually says that your imagination and reality, there's a false duality there, actually. And they are one thing.
Yeah.
Your imagined experience is your reality, and your reality could never be separate from your stories, your imagined, fabricated stories. And at that point, when we have those profound experiences on psychedelics, breathwork, meditation, or just spontaneously, when we're deeply involved in the imaginal, it feels more real. Because ultimately, there's something in us that actually knows what we are is entirely imaginal. This world, we can change a complete understanding of what is real. So this is an imaginal experience. How can I separate Jeremy from my own personal image of Jeremy? How can I separate Ben from my own image in my mind of what Ben is? And when we recognize that, can I start to tweak that? where I am fucking Leonidas. No, I don't have the beard, but I mean, honestly, visually, I'm more Archangel Michael if I was gonna be honest. But
You ever see Spartacus?
I haven't seen Spartacus.
You
No,
should check it out. If anyone's seen it, this man's Gannicus.
I don't know it, but I'll take
Great gladiator.
I'll take that. I'll take that. Also great movies. I'm just thinking off the top of my head. Last Samurai, Tom Cruise.
Epic,
Bro. And that's the thing. As a man, these archetypes. Dude, like again, I feel like a T-boost just talking about it, bro. Dying for everyone you love.
Where's the Shilajit?
Where's the dude? You gotta get sponsored by Shilajit. Well, it's on
Next
the way.
up.
It's on the way. Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, so we have these archetypes, and the one that has been so useful for me really is the warrior. But what about things like the lover, the king, the magician? All of these these are traditional archetypes that we can start to play with. But we can also, and this is the teaching of Rob Berbea, which I found so liberating, which is actually we can start to inhabit darker flavors of archetypes, like demons. We can start to inhabit things that are seemingly on the surface bad. And when I say inhabit, they just pop in your mind. They pop in your being. And it's like, where did they come from? Because we can ask that question. Did this come from Satan? Did it come from God? Did it come from source? You can say it all came from the source of creation just by default because it is here. And how do we work with that? Do we honor that darkness? Or do I, again, feed into the duality and the fear? Which says, no, there's no place. There's no place for this darkness. And I want to hear your take on this because we also need to talk about morality here.
Right.
And just because we play with darker images doesn't mean we're immoral. And I want to just give one example of what I'm speaking to here, which was, I guess I'll use an experience from my own life, which is this is a couple of years ago. We were still at Naropa in grad school, and Naropa's kind of fucking shot. So I was like hella stressed, and like it was like one of the darker periods of time in the year, maybe like around this time in November. And I just went on a walk because I just felt stressed. I was like, did yoga. I like did some ketamine. I was like, bro, nothing's working. I'm just going to go fucking walk. And I just walked and walked and walked around the neighborhood. And eventually I started to cry spontaneously. I didn't really know why. It was like an energetic thing. And this image came to me, and it was of me. I was on the ground looking up, and I was like in a city that was burning. And I remember like, oh, fuck, like shit's popping off. The nukes are falling. Something's up. And something lands like directly in front of me. And it's got these massive wings. And it's kind of lit up. Like, and it was like me with the hair and the tattoos. And the tattoos are glowing. I have glowing eyes. And I look at myself. So I'm on the ground watching me. And I'm like jacked angel demon type thing. And I look at myself and I see me, this jacked winged angel demon. It just offers its hand to me, and that's where the image stopped. And I've been working with that image, and that has become me in a weird kind of way. And it's like, again, where did that come from?
Was that at Maitri?
That was not at Maitri. Maitri is a 2-week retreat that we would do in grad school, me and Jeremy. But that happened spontaneously when I was just on a walk, when I was just stressed out.
That's an insanely powerful image,
right?
I mean,
it gives me chills too.
That's Jungian,
and it's kind of dark.
Yeah,
but it's like it. And again, the goal is not light or dark. That's what spiritual, especially New Age spirituality, gets messed up. Is the goal is actually the resonance in your body. Use the body as a compass. Don't get caught in the conceptuality of morality. Feel into how it feels to try on, not even try on, to let this image in. And we start to see these images, these imaginal beings. They're not quite you. They almost have an agency that you can't predict. They say things. They relate to you in interesting ways that maybe, again, it doesn't make sense logically, but there's resonances in your energy body. And that's how you know, oh, this is like changing me. There's something going on. And could these be messages from angels, from gods? Messages? Because recognizing all that we are as these imaginal beings, where did these things come from? How did they pop in my mind? What is creation trying to build through me, trying to experience through me? And it gives me chills because it's like so profound and so unique. And I don't see that addressed in any other tradition. This is where depth psychology like changed my life. It still does. And it's infinite. There's no limit to the role that these images can play in our lives, to how we can co-create with them, because they're given, but we can also start to co-create with them. where we can start to, when the angel demon puts its hand out, do I take it? Do I run away? Does it chase me? Do I hop on its back? Do I merge with it? What happens? And we can start to co-create new experiences, new imaginal experiences that become us. So I just laid a lot out there. I'm curious if you have any similar imaginal experiences or what you think about that.
No, yeah, I got a lot of thoughts on that. I will say that imaginal thinking is the realer than real, that to me.
Exactly.
And there are levels to interpretation of that. I'm inclined to believe now that there are angels and demons in that imaginal realm that are realer than real, and there is an important distinction between them. And I don't think that I would not recommend merging with some of the demonic ones, but facing them is different. And this is where I'd say like repression is not the same as creating healthy separation from, right? So I would say part of our culture's suffering, in my opinion, has to do with this failure to face what scares us, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean I become that thing either, right? And you probably are more likely to become it from not facing it. I mean, that's probably that's exactly what happened in Nazi Germany. Couldn't be me, and then suddenly I'm part of Hitler Youth.
Whoa. Spooky.
Yeah, and I think that's what happens if you refuse to face these dark energies. But given that I do think morality is essential and ethics, right? I would give a lot of caution for myself and anyone else on what energies we decide to engage with, right? Whether you believe in demons and angels or not, right? The energies are very real and people can feel that, I think. And, I think that's actually coming from a real place. But I will say if we don't privilege good over bad and pure over dark, at least in many cases, that's when you get the Zen devils who are like, it's all okay, including this sexual abuse, including thievery, because that's just the energy coming through me. And I think that's a really dangerous place, especially for someone who wants to engage in healing self and world, and creating this loving impact on the planet, where there are dark energies that we need to integrate into us. And that's part of depth psychology, is face the shadow, face the parts of yourself you'd rather not acknowledge as real, that they're real and they're part of you. And when you face them, they suddenly don't have that much hold over you. And I think that image that you had is insanely cool and
I'm surprised
powerful.
I haven't told you about that.
I'm surprised too. I mean, we got to talk more about that after.
We will.
But I've had a lot of imaginal encounters like that, and this is like a really Jungian practice. I've seen some stuff on retreat that I interacted with, like this jaguar image, right? I was meditating. No substances. I do not do substances like that, and so it was purely for meditation. And I think there was like a crack in the psyche and the consciousness at that moment that led to like a pouring of the collective unconscious in that moment. So I looked out the window and I saw this. Now, I wasn't actually like fully hallucinating as I would be on, like if I were on psychedelics, but I saw the imaginal image that was very real to me of a large jaguar, like moving around the meditation campus. And I followed it and I was like, why am I doing this? Like, what's wrong with me? I'm like, it's got to be leading me somewhere. And I was dealing with a lot of letting go of the false self at that retreat, and letting go of lies about myself and negative beliefs, and just dying to my old self and trying to rebirth this new image of myself. And now looking back, I would say that would be, part of God's image for me, part of God's plan for me. But that image led me way off the beaten path. And I was like, if I don't turn around soon, I'm going to be in trouble. Like, I'm either going to be lost. There's going to be like a mountain lion that gets me. So let me just stop following.
For context, we in grad school at Naropa would do 2-week meditation retreats at this place called Drala Mountain Center, which is like up in the mountains here in Colorado. So he's not lying. Like, there's mountain lions.
There were actual mountain lions there for sure. But yeah, so I'm like, I'm not going to follow this thing much more. But I felt this pull, this urge. I have to follow this thing. So I did for another minute or two, and it leads me to like the middle of this huge field. I'm way far out of the campus at that point. It's like a few feet ahead of me and it just disappears. I'm like, okay, this must be where I'm meant to be. So I walk a few more feet and there's a full skeleton in front of me, like of a dead animal, like maybe a couple feet wide, like You know, I don't actually know what the animal was, but wow, that image slapped me in the face. I was like, this is what I'm meant to see.
Trippy as fuck, dude. So again, these imaginal images, like, dude, are they real? Are they not real? They led you to this skeleton as you are letting go of parts of yourself, conditioned beliefs of who you were. You find this decayed corpse. Prolifically poetic, bro. I don't know. Where did that come from? You know? And can we, again, yet we live in this world where we create this duality between the imagination and reality. Oh, he's just got such an active imagination. And we not repress that, we squash that as a culture. We're like, get real, get a job, make money, invest in Bitcoin. And like, it's like, what about the imagination?
And synchronicity.
Can you speak to synchronicity? Let's go.
Synchronicity, in essence, is just uncausal, unexplainable coincidence, right? It's not actually coincidence. I would go so far as to say synchronicity is the language of God at this point.
Boom, I love that.
But yeah, I mean, just this acausal connective principle. This is a Jungian concept. He coined the term. But say if I was like thinking about, I don't know, a friend I haven't seen in 10 years, and suddenly I got a call from him. That would be a small instance of it.
Right.
A larger instance would be, I'm thinking of moving to Colorado to pursue my graduate degree, and I'm not sure about it because I don't want to give up my old career as a gymnastics coach, and I don't know what to do about that. And after holding that tension for a couple weeks, I get introduced to someone out of nowhere at a competition who says, hey, I got a gymnastics job for you out in Colorado. You want to take it?
Right.
Explain that.
That's what I'm saying. Like, what does that mean? For me, it's been the angel numbers. Like, the past 3 nights, I've been like getting over this cold, and I've been waking up in the middle of the night. Guess what? 333, 444, and guess what it was today? 555. What the fuck? What's going on? I don't know. And so
angels pursuing you.
Like, I guess, and also like the weird things. Like, all of a sudden, I'll spontaneously start thinking of my brother. And then I'll see like a truck on the highway with his name on it. I'm like, okay, what are the odds? Or dude, I'm reading a text or I'm typing a text and I'm typing the words. And then I go to my phone. The title of the song playing is the words I just typed. What's going on right now? What's going on right now? Like everyone has these experiences. No one can solidly explain them. There's something that I think has to be actually open and ungraspable. It's like, where did it come from? What does it mean? We don't know. What are the angels telling you? It's open to interpretation and your imaginal experience of what that means. And if I just say, oh, it's a coincidence, bro, shut up. Don't be a fucking nerd. Recognize this world is not science. It's not only science. It's not just the materialistic. And that is such a lifeless view that lacks poetry, it lacks depth, and it contributes to the meaning crisis. When I say, oh, the 333 444 555, what a strange coincidence. ChatGPT, what are the odds of that? 1 in 60 trillion. Whoa, that's weird. And it's like, okay, can we open up to the world is much more inexplicable than we think. Then I would say the scared ego wants to say that it is, because the ego wants to say, we figured it out, we know how the world is. And that's actually the ego's shallow desire for that ground to stand on.
Do you know who Ian McGillichrist is?
No, I don't. Enlighten me.
He's written 2 insane books that are like 1,000 pages. I think one of them has 200 pages of references. One of them is The Master and His Emissary, the other is The Matter with Things. Now, this is adding to the whole meaning crisis thing. He posits that part of the reason that we're suffering so much in this world is because of the privileging of left brain logical thinking. The master is actually the right brain in his book, and the emissary, the servant, is the left brain. And he says this is like insanely airtight scientific research that he's providing to support this claim that we're not designed to have linear logical thinking take the driver's seat. It's a great shotgun, like makes a great co-pilot 100%. Seat. And if we are not actually privileging the right brain, the storytelling, artistic, interpretive, meaning-making brain, that's where we get this suffering, this vacuum of coincidence, right? And you actually, I would say, can't become who you're meant to be and actualize and live a flourishing life if you're tapped off from that synchronistic encounter.
Yeah. And with that synchronistic, that is the right brain, which is the more artistic, right? So the right brain is the more artistic hemisphere of your mind, of your physical brain, I guess we could say. And we could make the argument that, again, when we're saying all of creation is actually imaginal, when you're limiting the expression of that right brain, you're actually limiting reality and your experience of who you are. And that's where I think we get a lot of zombies, because we get a lot of people that, again, feel like zombies. And I don't want to be mean about it, but like they're cut off from something. They're saying, they keep running into, I think, their own solidified experience of what the world is, specifically a very flat, cold, lifeless experience of creation, which is not necessary and actually really harmful, I would say. Yeah. And that's why I talk shit on it, because it's harmful. It hurts your soul. You can feel it if you pay attention. And there's something that craves the beauty, the poetry, the openness, the unfathomability of what this place is. And when I don't label it as this or that, I keep it open. That allows for that right brain to organically flow and express and actually create worlds. And that's the thing. Then we leave it to what I would call the soul, the heart, the chitta, the heart and mind, to actually create, what world do I want to live in right now? Who do I want to be? Am I just Ben the therapist? Because again, I would say that's like accurate, but not complete. Because that's, again, if I say that's only what I am, unidimensional, flat, cold, lifeless. And at that point, strippers and cocaine, baby. Like, quite literally, it just makes sense. And that's, it makes me think there's nothing wrong with desire. Desire gets a bad rap, and it, like, a lot of time people equate desire with like hedonism,
right?
Again, that like maximize sense pleasures, when for me the issue is not desire itself, it's where we are putting our desires, where are we focusing. It's on this materialistic place. And Rob Berbea, shout out Rob Berbea, the craziest Dharma teacher I've ever found, been blessed to find. He talks about what he calls, this is so complex, I guess we'll get into it a little bit. The Eros, Psyche, Logos dynamic, where our Eros, the Greek god of desire, is actually informed by our Logos, which is our conceptual framework about what is real. Based on what we attribute belief to and what we deem real, that's going to inform what we desire. If I think this separate self is really real, let's just maximize its story, its life, its security. When I recognize this separate self is actually just a story and it's fundamentally empty, and I can embrace a more cosmic identity, the Param Atman in Hinduism, then the desire shifts quite a bit. How can I be of service to creation, to what I really am? Because I'm still in service to self. The question is, what is self? And it's and again, shifting that story shifts what we desire. And let's just say the fruits of desiring to leave a beneficial impact on creation for you, your kids, and really future yous in different forms,
right,
is much more fulfilling than strippers and cocaine. And I will say that till I die, because it's a ice cold fact.
Amen, brother.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So what is the Logos, the conceptual framework that we're believing? And like, more than that, what is the impact of it? Where does that lead you? Where does that make your compass point?
Absolutely. I mean, couldn't have said it better in terms of that. And like the self, the serving the world and the creation, right? Serving the creator and serving the absolute highest principle. That's why I think transcendent principles have to be part of the equation.
Yeah.
This is where Vervaeke, I think, would come back, is like, a religion of self doesn't work, right? If I'm the forefront versus something outside of myself, something bigger than a vision, right? Totally. This transcendent principle has to be part of it. Otherwise, it is just self-serving, and service, like what you were saying before, is so important.
Yeah.
Right. And there has to be this element of sacrifice. Yeah. I actually have to be willing to give up something for myself in order to create something of value outside of me.
Something bigger than yourself. Yeah. Something that maybe transcends death.
And I would say too, like, of course, that's why I got out of New Age, was because it ended up being, I'm the God. It's the God of self,
Yeah.
right? Like
Totally.
I actually like fully
Yeah.
experienced, like I can manifest whatever I want. And to an
Totally.
extent that helped me get out of dark places. And then it led me back to dark places, because then it was like, what do I want? And it became more about me and
Yeah.
serving me. And like, oh, I can manifest anything. But then like there became this pride and arrogance and selfishness that that I had to get out of.
Well said.
And yeah, I would say the Jungian angle is we have to examine our shadow, but there actually has to be a shadow too. Otherwise, we don't have substance.
Whoa. Can you say more to that?
Yeah, I mean, I would say like the best duality that I could use to model this is Christ versus Antichrist. Like I was telling you before, there is this adversary, right? And Christ would actually be meaningless without Antichrist to help define him.
Yeah.
So it's a necessary duality. They're not equal for sure. Christ is
definitely very different.
Very different. Christ, and like in the end, you know, I believe in that Christ overcomes Antichrist, but there would be no need for Christ without this Antichrist adversary. And so in order for me, as if Christ is representative of me in this case, and I'm using him symbolically in a depth psychological way, then I would say the symbol of wholeness and growth. I can't become whole without casting this shadow, right? In order for me to have substance, there has to be dark adversarial forces helping to create me.
Totally. In the sense, there can't be light without dark.
Right.
There can't be angels without demons. They come together. And recognizing that, I think there's a lot of freedom in that. Of like also seeing, you know, can I be constructing this? And then maybe what happens through a meditative lens when we apply a really radical practice of equanimity to like good, bad, is what is. Equanimity. It's like you're not picking and choosing. You're not clinging to the good and pushing away the bad. You're just accepting it all, not holding on or pushing away. And that what happens. Interestingly, this is what Robert Bea talks about, and I had a little bit of direct experience with what I'm gonna speak to when I was at the Zen centers, when I was really devoted to hardcore meditation. So like a week-long silent retreat every month, like 4 hours of sitting a day minimum. I got into I'm just gonna sit more than that because it just felt really good after a while. And coming to that radical place of equanimity, finding that eventually, in a weird, trippy kind of way, experience gets a lot more soft. It's not as jagged, it's not as pronounced in perception because I'm not holding on and pushing away. And eventually things start to fade in a really radical way where like time actually starts to fade, and it's like days go by on retreat and you're like, what happened? I have no idea. Because it's like you're letting go. You're not trying to let go, you're just letting be. And what's so trippy, this again ties into this principle of dependent origination, where the world, in order for it to appear, there has to be some flavor of what you could call resistance. It has to hit something. There has to be some friction of I like this and I don't like that. Well, great. Then it draws that out, that experience in perception. Yeah. As far as I love this person so much, and because there's that clinging, you actually create simultaneously something to cling to. That love, that person, and also you create the one that is doing the clinging. So, and same with the resistance. When I'm afraid of death, this abstract idea called death, interestingly, when I'm pushing it away, it seems so real in awareness and perception. And also the thing that could die also seems so real. And it's when we apply radical equanimity, everything starts to blur, dissolve, and fade. And this is where that's an experience that we can have. Any human being can have. And I know that for sure. I mean, I would say most human beings. I can't say 100% of people, but I would say that duality is constructed. And we can play in the beauty of duality. And I do not want to degrade that. I think it's absolutely necessary to taste the depth, the beauty, the nourishment, the soul-making capability of the theater of this place requires your engagement and your duality and your preferences to I like this, I don't like that. And maybe we don't have too much time left, but I do want to touch on morality. Yeah. And how and clinging to things that are skillful, the good, and what that means. And I know you have a Christian background at this point. So what is the necessity of morality here? And then maybe we can tie that back into this meaning crisis and the meaninglessness we feel.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I definitely already spoke a little bit about without this transcendent morality, that doesn't come from me, right? As soon as I get to decide what's moral, it's not actually morality, it's my preference. It's what I feel like. And if I subscribe to this view that there is no transcendent morality and ethics that's worth submitting to, honestly, to the point of things I don't like following all the rules, right? But if I don't subscribe to that, what I am subscribing to is just what I feel like. I can't say that if wrong is done to me, it's actually wrong. I could just say, I don't like that. I don't like that you stabbed me through my chest. I don't like that you blew my house up. Like, I can't say that's wrong. And then look where the world will end up like that. That's where you get terrorism, famine, right? Disease, poverty that's unnecessary. Like all these dark systems of oppression that we can't complain about it without morality. It's because why is it wrong if there's no transcendent principle? And I would say, like, in terms of the meaning crisis, that's part of what postmodernism has led to that conclusion, is like, because it's all good, right? Everything's equally valid and there's no right or wrong. It's just what you prefer, is kind of the postmodern perspective. Then this is where that leads, right? It's like, you have depression. Let me give you a pill.
And it's this, what I feel out of this conversation with you and where we're at right now is like the necessity for that sturdy backbone, that father, that masculine figure to be like, actually, there is a way to fuck your life up, and I'm not going to let you do that. I'm going to smack you in the right fucking direction. And guess what? That's actually love. And that's what...
Absolutely.
And I think that's part of the beauty and the poetry and actually the, part of the real, you could say, necessity of something like the Christian path that has these, again, a sturdy backbone of moral guidelines. It says, listen, you don't cross these, and there's a reason. It's not to fuck with you. It's to help you. And that is the love of the father, ideally, archetypally, imaginally speaking, too.
Yeah. Oh my God. I love that you said that. That was, the backbone is so essential, because love is not always soft. It's not just like, oh no, it's okay. Like, you want to fuck your life up. That's okay.
It's the maternal.
Right. It's very maternal, and there's a place for that. You need to have that compassionate, open heart, tender space, love. And you need the rules, because that keeps you straight and narrow. I mean, the rules, like, try raising a kid without rules. It'd be a feral creature that you raise, right? It'd just be like bearing fangs at you. Like, you won't even ever learn to speak. And so, and I think that plays a role in therapy to ground it a little bit, is like, why is therapy not working? Like the Hellman book, we've had 100 years of psychotherapy. The world is getting worse. Why is that? It's because of this cushy, compassionate, right? Like, everything is okay type of love that lacks the backbone, where it's like validation. You like that, even though it's clearly not doing good for you. Keep at it. Who am I to say no? Right. And I think that's where part of the problem is, and why I gravitate so much to Christianity. And like, it's not all about what I think is right. Like, I have to submit to this higher principle, whether I like it or not. And I trust that it is doing good. And like, it doesn't have to necessarily be that. That's what I subscribe to. Right. But like this idea in therapy of not attending to these higher order principles, and like not pushing back, not challenging, not calling for more from someone, right, is part of the problem. Like, there's everyone says Jesus was this hippie, and he wasn't. Like, he had a backbone, and love and truth go hand in hand, right? There's a story of the Pharisees, were basically like the corrupt religion of the time. They're corrupt religious leaders, and they turned a temple into a marketplace. And you know what Jesus did when he got there?
I think so.
He quite literally started flipping tables. He was like, not in my house. You're not going to disrespect the house of God like this. That's some alpha spirituality right there, right?
That's okay. So that's where I wanted to bring it. And so, I mean, I should end soon because I have a meeting, but
we call it in a minute.
This is such a good conversation. We need to talk about alpha spirituality. And bro, this is the beginning. We could have a 4-hour conversation and probably keep going, to be honest. But so alpha spirituality, we say that sort of tongue in cheek as a joke, but also there's something real in there. Like, what about the love of the father that has been forsaken for this maternal flavor of love? And you can see this in spiritual communities. You can see this in psychotherapy, when it's this, I'll just hold anything. You want to fuck your life up? That's okay. Like, we can talk about it. What about something harder than that will smack you in the right direction, and actually recognizing when you hate your life, can that feeling in your gut, that depression, that anxiety, can we view that as the love of the Father? What happens in how we relate to it? I'm getting fucking chills when we can relate to the darkness in our minds as the love of the Father pointing us in the right direction. And instead we'll numb, we'll look away, we'll scroll on, again, bullshit social media, anything to avoid the love of the Father. And again, can we look at it? Can we actually be like, what is this anxiety telling me? What is the Father telling me? What are the daimons, the messengers, the angels telling me with this depression? Where do I need to look? What do I need to feel? Who do I need to connect with? What do I need to build in the world? This is the love of the Father. And we wonder why so many people are so lost, actually. And it's like because we've turned away from that harder flavor of love.
Right.
And I think, again, there's a balance here, obviously. You don't, most people don't want to be like David Goggins and just let those demons drive you to run 250 miles. I mean, I'm not against it. I think that guy's a fucking legend.
I'm not against it, and I would not say it's soft to not want to break every bone in your foot while running 500 miles.
Goggins is an outlier. I respect the shit out of him, though. Let's say, and that's up for you to decide.
Yeah.
But can we actually turn towards that darkness, turn towards that anxiety, turn towards that depression? Because the more that we run and look away, the more we're gonna fall into, interestingly, more darkness. It's like quicksand. The more you struggle, the deeper you sink, until you turn towards and let that light, because that's what the darkness is. If you actually pay close attention to it, it is light. It's very interestingly like dense light. It's trying to show you something necessary. It's trying to show you, again, slap you in the right direction. Great, you hate your life? Good. That's what I need to hear. Because guess what? We got big things planned for you. And you got to hate yourself now in order, and again, hate's a strong word. You got to know you could be better to open to that, to turn towards that. Yeah, you don't like the way you look? Go to the gym, get a haircut. You don't like how much money you make? Great, make more money. Go to school. Start connecting with more people. Be driven. Be driven in this world. Act your role in this theater. And I want to give you the last word on this. But I think so much of the mental health paradigm, which is trippy because I made a video on this that I haven't posted yet today for socials, but is actually linked to the fact that we turn away from darkness. We turn away from, again, maybe the Father, maybe that discipline, turning away from even the meaning crisis. We say, oh, everything's meaningless. Let me just avoid that. Pay attention to it. Recognize it's not what you think it is. It's a story that's lurking in the back of your mind. And when you give it the attention it deserves, it dissolves. You're like, oh, wait, that was just a shitty story. So, yeah, Jeremy, we got to end this, but I'm curious
we do have to call it. But no, I mean, you said it so well there. Like, that was locked in. I appreciate that was locked in. All that to say, I think the biggest thing that I would say is hammering in what I've already said a few times now is if we're just, it's not just about harm. I'll add that caveat, right? I think I hear a lot in like modern spiritual circles that aren't really grounded that if it's not harming anyone, then that's okay. Like, then there's nothing wrong with what you're experiencing. Right. I disagree. And this might be controversial, that doesn't, just because you're experiencing it doesn't make it right. And I would say like just following, there's freedom from and there's freedom to, right? And I think the goal of liberation from certain things is important, but free to do anything does not necessarily mean we're free from the desire to do those things, right? And this cushy spirituality sometimes gets its hands and claws into like this perspective of, well, if I feel it, it's okay. And it's right. And truth does not always agree with that. Yes. And that has a place in therapy, in daily life, in pretty much everything we're talking about. And there's someone has to say no to people at some point. And it doesn't have to do with harm necessarily. Because, I mean, we came into this problem at school. What is harm? I would say just because it's not causing physical pain to yourself or someone else does not mean that it's good for you necessarily. And, I don't want to get too deep in that rabbit hole again, but just taking caution in where is this desire, feeling, impulse, or belief leading me? Right. And sometimes no is the right answer.
Let's just look at it like this. If I just followed my body, again, like cocaine and strippers, and maybe I'll just drink myself to death because that feels good, right? And let's just ask the question, do you want to live like that? Like, for real, we get to live this one myth as Ben Duffy once, never again. Are you sure that's all you want? I would say most people are like, no, we want more than that. And there's something beautiful in that. Don't look away from that. Again, let that dissatisfaction, that dukkha in the Pali, actually marinate into your soul, into your being, to recognize, oh, I can make this anything I want, but I gotta want it. And I gotta know I don't have it right now. And to know that I don't have that which I want hurts. And that's okay.
That pain could be part of the solution.
Exactly.
And I would even take one step further and say, what does God want?
And that's a whole different question. And I think a lot of the time, and we'll end on this because I'm hella late, but it's fine.
Thanks for you made a sacrifice.
Exactly. We made a sacrifice here for the will of the Father. Honestly, though. But I love what Robert Bea said, where a lot of times we live asking, or when we pray, what can God do for me? Hey, God, can I get that new whip? Like, my car's breaking down. Like, I need a new job. Or, God, can I get over this girl? Like, I need to get over that breakup. What about asking the question, what can I do for you, God? What can I do for you? Please let me know. And that's what changed my life. Looking into the mountains, and I could cry saying this, because it's just like, I'm yours. Let me know. What do you want? Let me know. Give me clarity. Give me strength. Give me courage to act from your will, to speak your words. Let me know. Please. I'm yours. And the freedom that comes from that is, again, let's just compare it to cocaine and strippers, because that's been the metaphor. Not even comparable. Not even comparable. Mm-hmm. That depth, that beauty, the tears in my eyes right now, not even comparable. And that's the thing. We can choose to live that story. We can choose to live that story and recognize deeper, fuller, richer, wider experiences of beauty, of connection to the divine, the connection to self, other, and world. And I guess that's where we have to end. I mean, that's a pretty prolific way to stop. But, dude, we'll have to do this. We'll have to do this again sometime soon. Because, bro, we might have to do like our own podcast. Because, like,
at this point,
because like at least like an every other week thing. Because this is so fire, and we can just keep going.
Yeah, this is not an ending. This is to be continued.
It is. I love you, Jeremy. Again, this is Jeremy Vera. Shout out, one of my best friends. Do you want to plug into your stuff?
I do have to make a new shout out this time, actually, because last time I plugged my Instagram, which is very small and insignificant for now. Yeah. But that's Jeremy Vera, LPCC. Yeah. But more importantly, my fiance and I, Reina, who will be on the pod soon, we are starting a new podcast, The Antithesis to Call Her Daddy. We're dropping Call Him Daddy.
Yeah. I love it. Him.
And that's going to drop in the next week or so. So follow that Instagram. It's already up, and stay tuned for that. Call Him Daddy.
Is that the handle?
That's the handle.
Okay, cool. Wow, you got a good handle.
Oh, yeah.
Sick. Call Him Daddy. And you know who that is. Big man upstairs. And look him in the eye when you shake his hand. All right. On that note, we got to cut it. I love y'all. Thank you for listening.
Thanks so much for having me, bro.
Anytime. This is the beginning.